All right, guys, so this is just going to be a, I guess, kind of a basic review of the Hallmaster ATV cargo carrier. I am using this on my vehicle, which is a 2021 Toyota RAV4 XLE all-wheel drive model. And I'll go into the reasons why I decided to go with the ATV carrier. As you can see, it says, easy to assemble. It's supposed to have a 300-pound weight capacity. I'll probably only be using this for lighter weight items. All steel square tube construction, says powder coat finish. Doesn't really feel like powder coat, feels more like paint, but this only cost $69.99, $70 plus tax. I actually got this on sale with the 25% off coupon, so it was just under $50 with the tax. All right, so we're gonna take everything out and we'll put it together. All right, so here we are out of the box, and you can see you have the two halves right there. You have a brace, which is this piece right here. Here's your hitch mount right here. And then you're gonna have 4 of these large screws, 8 washers, 4 lock washers, 4 nuts. You'll have 2 smaller screws, again 4 washers. Then you can have these nuts, which have a nylon insert so they don't come undone. And those 2 small ones are going to go here in the brace. 4 large ones, as you can see, it's going to be right there. Let me set this up on the tripod and we'll put it together. All right, guys, and obviously we have all of our parts laid out. You want to make sure that you have everything that you're supposed to have. I was missing a couple of washers, but that wasn't a big deal because I had some. So like I said, just make sure that you have all the parts. The only other thing you're going to need is some kind of a wrench. And so I'm going to use a box wrench or open-end wrench. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a 5/8 inch wrench. Okay, and basically need one to hold the nut and the other one to tighten it. So you can use a combination, 2 ratchets if you have it, 2 box wrenches, or a crescent wrench. But for this video, this is what I'm using. You can also, if you don't have standard size, you can use a 16 millimeter. It's essentially the same thing. It's a good enough fit. There's no worry about stripping anything. So we'll go ahead and get started in putting this together. All right. So we're going to take this piece here. I'm just going to set this in between, just like that. Obviously, that would be upside down, or else we would be lowering it instead of raising it once it's set on there. We definitely don't want to do that. So you want your label up. And so you're going to do one of the bolts. You'll put a washer on. You're just going to slip that through. You're going to use another washer on this side. Then you're going to use a lock washer. So let's do that the right way. Let's put this piece on. Now we're going to put the washer on, then a lock washer, then a nut. We'll just hand tighten that for right now until we get the other 4 remaining ones on. I'm going to start at the back just because it makes it a little easier. Keeps everything nice and lined up. One thing I did want to mention is it doesn't matter which way you put these bolts on, if you're going from left to right or right to left. Just keep them all uniform. And even that probably doesn't matter, but for aesthetic purposes, it'll look a little bit nicer. All right, so now we're gonna grab one of these small ones, 2 washers, one of these lock nuts. You're gonna use this brace, and there's 2 holes that are drilled right up in here. These we're gonna do from the back forward. Again, probably doesn't matter much. So we're gonna get this one lined up. Put a washer on, insert the bolt through, put the other washer on, and then you're gonna have the nylon insert facing away from the bolt so it tightens on. Now we're gonna do this side. You're gonna lift up a little bit on here because this is essentially a brace, keeping it straight. Again, and that's pretty much it. Now all we have to do is tighten it up, and then it's done. All right, so we're going to tighten these large ones first. Again, 5/8 or 16 millimeter. It doesn't give any kind of a torque specification for this, so I would say just use your own judgment on that. You obviously don't want it so tight that you're stripping things or anything like that, but feels pretty sturdy, so definitely make sure it's nice and tight. I don't think there's any worry about bending the metal, like when you're putting some like less expensive or a little bit cheaper quality items. Usually things like furniture where the metal can be really thin, and if you tighten it too much it'll bend the metal. We don't really have that worry right now. All right, all that's left is to tighten these 2. Let me get the wrench and I'll be right back. All right, guys, and sorry, I forgot to mention, and I'll put a little note in the beginning part of the video. So this is a 13 millimeter, and this is a 1/2 inch. They're essentially the same size, but you will need that to tighten up those back ones, the smaller bolts where the brace is. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so we're just going to tighten these up. These don't have to be really tight. Just get them, obviously you don't want them loose. All right. Make sure that you can see the end of the screw protruding through the nut, because it does have that nylon insert that's there to keep it from coming loose. So just make sure that that bolt is all the way through. All right, now it's all done, so it's ready to be installed onto the vehicle. And yeah, I'll actually go out there, I'll show you what it looks like on the vehicle, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about why I chose this particular cargo carrier. All right, so here it is installed on the back of the vehicle, and the hitch pin is included. I just forgot to show that earlier in the video with the hardware. So you can see it's actually a really good fit on a smaller vehicle like the RAV4. This is mostly going to be used for lightweight items, or items that are basically messy, things like chainsaws or running a couple bags of garbage to the dump. You can see it's
well within the inside, so it doesn't extend past the edges of the vehicle. It's important for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to have a lot less of a effect on the fuel economy of the vehicle since it's not out in the wind, basically inducing more drag. And my cargo isn't going to be out in the wind. Most of it's, pretty much in line with the vehicle, so it'll have a minimal amount of wind onto the cargo. And now we'll go to a different angle, and I'll show you guys why I chose the ATV rack as opposed to a standard car rack or a standard cargo rack. So you can see from this angle, the cargo rack has about a 3 or 4 inch rise, and that is one of the big reasons that I chose the ATV rack. You'll notice it's well above the path of the exhaust, and of course that means all my cargo is also not going to be in the path of the exhaust. That's really important to make sure that any items you're carrying are not damaged by the heat from the exhaust. If you look at the corner, obviously this is all metal, but some of them right here will actually have a plastic connector, and you'll see reviews of people using those types of racks where the connectors actually melt from the heat coming out of the exhaust. The secondary reason that I wanted one that was elevated, I drive some areas where there's a lot of dips, and it could just be, pulling out of a parking lot, that has a pretty good grade to it, whether up or down. And certainly people will scrape bumpers, and if you're going to scrape a bumper, in a incline like that, certainly you don't want your cargo rack scraping the ground and getting damaged. Hopefully this video has helped you guys out. Please consider subscribing to the channel and leave any comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And if you have any suggestions, please leave those as well.